Have you ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at night, silently wondering, why can't I be happy? Have you ever felt like life is passing you by, but joy, it always seems to slip through your fingers? Maybe you've tried everything, relationships, work, distractions, material achievements, and yet inside you, something remains empty, as if happiness were a promise made to everyone, except you. What if I told you that true happiness isn't where you've been looking for it? We live in a world that confuses pleasure with joy, distraction with fulfillment, achievement with meaning. And so we survive day after day, masking the pain with forced smiles and social media filters. But there comes a time when the body gets sick, the mind grows tired, and the soul cries out for something real. Do you feel that way too? This video isn't a magic formula. It's a call to delve deep within yourself and rediscover what pain, time, and trauma have perhaps stifled the right to be happy. Not a superficial happiness, but a happiness born of truth, of healing, of connection with what is eternal. If you've ever cried in secret, if you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, felt lost or irrelevant, this video's for you. Let's walk together. And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover that happiness was never a distant goal, but a seed already within, waiting for light and courage to blossom. Now, before we dive into this profound and transformative journey, I kindly ask you, like this video, share it with someone who is also searching for meaning, and subscribe to the channel. This simple gesture will help this message reach others who, like you, need to be reminded that there is still hope. There is still healing, and yes, it is still possible to be happy. There is something we all seek, often desperately, but few have the courage to admit with an open heart, we just want to be happy. Life has taken so much from us. There have been losses, abandonments, failures, betrayals, pain that have scarred the soul almost irreversibly. Given this, it almost seems cruel to ask, is it possible to be happy after so much pain? But this is precisely the question we need to have the courage to face. Because we're not talking about a superficial happiness, the kind shown on social media, with forced smiles and edited moments. We're talking about real happiness, the kind that arises in silence after tears, the kind that blossoms amidst the rubble of a heart that has already been shattered, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on a profound reconciliation with life itself. As Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of a concentration camp, said, happiness cannot be pursued, it must arise as a side effect of a greater cause. This greater cause is meaning, and meaning is the most solid bridge between the pain we feel and the joy we can still experience. Happiness, then, is not a goal, it is a fruit. The fruit of a heart that finds meaning again even after being crushed by life. In this first section, we'll reflect on a truth that can change the way you see your story. Happiness isn't in what you lost. It's in what you decide to do now with what's left. Perhaps you've experienced an irreparable loss. Perhaps life has left you with scars that no one sees. But even so, or rather, precisely because of that, you have access to a source of happiness that only those who have suffered greatly can know, the happiness of starting over, the happiness of rebuilding, the happiness of courageously accepting life as it is, and not as you wanted it to be. Why do you need to keep watching? Because in this video, you won't hear cheap self-help formulas. You'll find an honest, profound, and possible journey. We'll talk about how to find happiness even when the world around you is falling apart. Let's reflect on how true happiness is born from self-love, faith, gratitude, and even pain. Yes, pain when it is experienced with awareness and hope. And the first step to this? Start by making peace with your story. Stop running from what hurt you. Embrace your pain as part of your construction. Pick up the pieces and slowly begin to build a new version of yourself. Don't wait for grandiose signs or perfect moments. Happiness often arrives like a whisper when you decide to Keep going, even when you're weak, even when you're in tears. Today, your practice is simple, yet transformative. Write down on a piece of paper 3 things that still make you feel alive. They don't have to be big. It could be the smell of coffee in the morning. It could be someone's hug. It could be the sunset, even if you're alone. This exercise will remind you of something powerful. Happiness isn't far away. It's already there in the details. Waiting for you to see again? Many people think that happiness depends on finally achieving what they desire, a new job, the love of their life, enough money, a perfect body, peace in the family, emotional stability. But the truth is, the more we believe happiness is just around the corner, the further we distance ourselves from it. And it's at this point that we begin to understand one of the greatest traps of the human mind, the idea that we'll only be happy when everything is fine. The problem is that this when often never arrives. And while we wait, we stop living. We stop smiling, giving thanks, and noticing the beauty that's already around us. We are so busy seeking happiness that we become blind to the happiness that already exists. Actress Audrey Hepburn said something powerful. For beautiful eyes, look for the good in others. For beautiful lips, speak only kind words. And for balance, walk with the knowledge that you are never alone. She understood that beauty and also happiness lies in small actions, in how we choose to see and live life, even with all its imperfections. In this section, we will discuss a simple and often overlooked path to achieving true happiness: gratitude, not as a superficial practice, but as a profound attitude toward life. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but transforms its meaning. It doesn't eliminate losses, but it expands what remains. And that changes everything. If you want to be happy, start observing what you still have. Do an exercise right now. Think of something you have today that long ago you begged God for. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's a ceiling. Maybe it's the simple fact of being alive. How many times have you acknowledged this? How many times have you allowed this memory to flood your heart with joy? Happiness isn't a destination. It's a state of consciousness. And this consciousness needs to be trained, cultivated, nurtured. Because, yes, it is possible to train the mind to perceive the good, even when everything seems difficult. Science has shown this. Positive psychology studies, like those conducted by researcher Martin Seligman, reveal that people who practice gratitude regularly experience higher levels of happiness and well-being, not because everything is perfect, but because they've learned to see life through different eyes. So why keep watching? Because if you're tired of chasing something that never arrives, maybe it's time to stop and start recognizing what you already have. In this video, you're being led down a real path. No empty promises, only healing truths. And what can you do in practice? Today, before you go to sleep, write down 3 things you're grateful for, even if your life is difficult. Do this for a week. It may seem small, but it will transform you. Gratitude changes your brain chemistry, strengthens your heart, and soothes your soul. It reconnects you with life. It restores your sensitivity to realize that, despite everything, there is still beauty. There is still hope. There are still reasons to be happy. Believe me, the problem was never a lack of happiness. It was just your disconnection from it. Most people aren't unhappy because they have a bad life. They're unhappy because they live a life disconnected from meaning. And perhaps this is one of the greatest silent pains of our time, living well on the outside but empty on the inside. How many times have you asked yourself, why, even though I have so much, do I still feel this emptiness? Happiness isn't sustained solely by comfort, achievements, or applause. It requires connection to a purpose. And here's one of the hardest and most liberating truths you'll ever hear. You weren't created just to exist. You were created to make an impact. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote, Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by the lack of meaning and purpose. He saw the worst of humanity, lived through the horror of the concentration camps, and yet discovered that the people who survived with the most hope were those who had a purpose, something or someone, to live for. This brings us to the big question. Do you know why you're here? Until there's a purpose that moves your soul, happiness will always be fleeting. But the good news is that purpose isn't something you find ready-made somewhere. It's something you build day after day. When you decide to align your actions with the deepest values of your heart, it's when you begin to live not only for yourself, but also to bless someone else's life. And it doesn't have to be something grand. It can be a decision to listen more to others, to serve with love, to teach what you know, to comfort those who suffer. All of this is purpose. All of this is a source of true happiness. And when you align with this, life takes on a new color. The Bible in Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous soul will prosper, and he who gives will be satisfied." Those who live to offer something to the world receive back much more than they give, because the purest joy is not in receiving, but in feeling useful, feeling needed, feeling part of something greater. And why keep watching this video until the end? Because perhaps you lived for a long time believing that happiness was in the hands of others, or trapped in the future. But now you're beginning to realize that the key lies within you, in the purpose that calls you, in the kindness you can offer, in the mission you can embrace, even on difficult days. What to do in practice? Ask yourself, what is the smallest gesture I can make today to make someone's life better? It could be a phone call, a hug, a listening ear, a gesture of forgiveness. Do it and repeat it every day. Because in the end, happiness doesn't come from conquering the world. It comes from earning the right to say, today I was useful. Today I made a difference. Today I lived with meaning. This is the happiness that doesn't pass, that doesn't depend, that doesn't shake, because it springs from the truest place within yourself. We've reached the end of this journey, but perhaps this is just the beginning of your true transformation. During this time together, you realize that happiness is not a destination, nor a prize for those who never make mistakes. Happiness is an intimate construction, a daily choice, a reconnection with your truest essence, the one you may have forgotten, but which still pulses within silently. And if you've come this far, it's because something inside you is awakening. Something in you wants to live differently. It wants to stop surviving and start, in fact, living, and living lightly, with meaning, with courage. Look at your story. How much pain have you faced? How many falls? And yet you are here. Perhaps no one knows everything you've endured. But you know, God knows. And this is already proof that there is a strength within you that has never been defeated, only dormant. And today, I want to invite you to make peace with your journey, to embrace who you are, to let go of the guilt for what didn't work out, to stop comparing yourself to others, escape the trap of chasing a false happiness made of appearances, and start cultivating a real deep happiness that's yours. Remember, you don't need to have everything to be happy. You need direction, purpose, and love for the little things, for life, for people, for yourself. So if this video spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it with someone who needs to hear these words. Maybe you'll be an instrument of healing in someone else's life today. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now, because every week we're here to help you live with more soul, more faith, and more truth. You are not alone, and you were born to live a full life, not a perfect life, but a true life. May God bless you, and may happiness find you precisely the moment you decide, with courage, to be who you truly are.